It takes a lot more than luck to make it to poker's most elite final table. Each of our players have paid six figures and earned their way to make it this far. For some, it will be a big success, but for others, not so much. This is WPT Alpha 8. To the home of high-stakes, high-roller action in South Florida, and the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino is just that destination. We are in the middle of the first ever super high-roller poker tournament to be held in this part of the world, and with a buy-in set at $100,000, the game's wealthiest and bravest players landed here, ready to show the world that they have what it takes to be an Alpha 8. A8's own elite poker pundits Ali Najad and Olivier Bousquet have a bird's-eye view of the game up in the clubwpt.com skybox. Good evening, guys.
Good evening, Lynn. Olivier and I are, of course, enjoying the best view in the building of our Alpha 8, some of poker's elite, and they have each spent at least $100,000 to be here tonight. Now, in looking out at this field, Olivier, is there anybody that jumps out to you as perhaps a favorite?
Yeah, if I had to pick a favorite, I'd go with Jason Mercier. He's got a healthy stack, he's one of the best players in the world, and he's got a lot of experience deep in tournaments.
Anyone else? Well,
Matt Glantz is our current chip leader, an experienced live cash game player. Also, Steve Silverman, an online phenom, has a good stack. Ike Haxton, one of the best online heads-up cash game players in the world, is capable of just about anything at the poker table.
Yeah, let's just call Ike the Machine. Now, normally we would bring up a name like J.C. Tran in this group of 8, but you didn't. Why not?
Well, JC is our current short stack, but at the same time, if he manages to double up, he'll be right back in the mix.
All right, that mix is currently underway as we send it back down to the final table where the action is on Joseph Chong. Joseph has accomplished quite a bit at the ripe old age of 24.
He's quickly approaching almost $9 million in lifetime cashes.
I don't think I have $9 million in lifetime salary. He lays down to J.C. Tran, who mucks a suited connector. Mercier sitting this one out, as is Matt Glantz. And over to Daniel Alaei. Daniel, Los Angeles native, 4-time World Series of Poker bracelet winner, over $6 million in live tournament cashes, and with pocket threes, he will make it $10,000 to go. That's a min raise with the blinds at $2,500 and $5,000, ante of $500. Haxton and Gross both fold, and on to Steven Silverman.
Because of the min raise, people have started 3-betting a little bit less from the big blind and just defending more.
Here's the flop, 2 9s and a king. That's gin for Steven Silverman. He's got trips.
He's probably happy with his decision to just call now.
That's a tempting board for Daniel Alaei, maybe, with the pair out there?
I think it's reasonable to either bet or check. Looks like Daniel is checking. You know, he does have some showdown value with a pair and just kind of going to reevaluate. Obviously, Steven with 3 9s is going to lead most of the time here, and it's going to be a question of what Daniel does on the river, because I can't imagine Daniel just folding his pocket pair now to 1 bet.
Steven has bet $18,500 after both players check the flop. Any chance Daniel just folds?
He could, but I think it's just too weak to not either take a stab on the flop or at least call on the turn. Maybe if the turn had been a 10, Jack, or Queen, he might fold, but a 5 is a pretty innocuous card.
As is the 6 on the river for the most part.
Yeah, the 6 makes the 7, 8 as a straight, but besides that, doesn't change too much.
Now, if you're Steven Silverman, you're trying to figure out what you can get called by,
yeah,
sizing your bet appropriately,
Steven
and he
makes
comes
a
up with
relatively big bet here.
$43,500.
Yeah, I think he's hoping that Daniel might have a king that he checked back, and also just for the sake of making the same size bet that he would make with bluffs, is making a healthy bet here with 3 9s. Daniel does get away with his pocket threes, and decent sized pot for Silverman here.
Joseph Chong on the button, J.C. Tran and Jason Mercier in the blinds. Action on Matt Glantz, who has ace-5 suited and lays it down.
Yeah, you know, if I'm the chip leader and I have ace-5 suited under the gun 8-handed, I probably open, but maybe that's why I'm in the booth and Matt Glantz is at the table.
Action folded all the way around to J.C. Tran in the small blind, and He's going to limp in with ace-8 offsuit.
Yeah, I don't like this play. To me, ace-8 offsuit is the perfect hand to just go all in with from the small blind.
Yeah, he's on the short stack right now. Instead, it's Jason Mercier who's going to put JC all in with king-10 offsuit. JC making the call.
And I got to say, I'm not a huge fan of Jason's play either. King-10 is a reasonable all-in to JC's stack, but at the same time, he could just check, and king-10 actually plays very well against JC's stack size heads up.
Well, here comes the flop. It is ace-4-7. Pair of aces now for JC. King-10 not looking good at all. Three of hearts on the turn means Jason Mercier is drawing dead. And while they count down the stacks to find out exactly how much JC has doubled to, we'll send it down to Lynn Gilmartin with our 9th place finisher, Bill Perkins.
Well, I'm hanging out here with Bill Perkins. Unfortunately, he's in a chair he'd probably rather not be in. He was eliminated in 9th place, just missed out on the Alpha 8. Bill, what happened?
Was playing against some tough players, some very good players, and mixed it up. Made a couple mistakes that found me short stacked, and now I'm out.
Now, you did spend almost the whole tournament right next to your coach.
That was great because, you know, I always want to show my hand, and he keeps me from showing my hand. That's one. He's one of the better out there, up-and-coming poker players, so it's good to have your sensei right there.
Now, tell us about the rest of the table. Do you think there's some really particular tough spots there?
I really think it was tough against Isaac when he was on my left. You know, I've played in cash games with him before and seen him fire some big bluffs. And it's really hard to get a read, and if you guess wrong, you're really severely hampered, and Jason's fairly tough to play against. I pretty much got out of his way.
At least now you have front row position. We can kick back
Front
and
row seats,
enjoy
yeah,
the
watch
show.
him. Yeah.
Let's see if Jeff can take it to the end, huh?
Yeah, I'm rooting for him. You know, I think with a scarf like that, you gotta at least get in the money, right? Only JG can pull it off.
Well, thank you so much for talking to us, Bill.
You're welcome.
All right, let's get back to it.
Now, scarves I can tolerate at the poker table, but if anyone starts wearing mittens, that's it.
That's where you draw the line?
That's where I draw the line. Goggles would be weird, too, wouldn't they? Yeah,
Slightly.
that's just strange. So we get right back to the action. It's folded around to Steven Silverman. His 10-3 offsuit will be returned to sender. Not going to fold is J.C. Tran with ace-10 suited. Two red aces for Jason Mercier.
Jason's not going to be given a ton of credit here. He's in the small blind versus a button raise. He's probably going to play this spot relatively aggressively.
Yeah, he's 3-betted, and that gets Matt Glantz off of pocket fours in the big blind.
I think JC's hand is too strong to fold.
Hold on.
And he does decide to go all in here. I prefer a call here with JC in position with a hand like ace-10 suited, but I think an all-in is reasonable. It's just unlucky to run into pocket aces from Jason. And an incredible flop.
Nut flush draw for JC, and Mercier knows it.
That's a really great flop when you're up against two aces.
Two more random black cards.
It's the 7 of diamonds, and all he's got to do now is dodge a spade.
That's right.
That's not black.
Do this one real slow.
Tran's looking for a black card with a pointy tip on the suit. Can he connect and double through Jason yet again and stay alive? He can. It's the deuce of spades on the end. What a bad beat for pocket aces.
That's unbelievable. And you can see no reaction from either player there. And now Jason's just lost 2 all-ins in a row to the same player. And he went from at least my favorite at the beginning of this final table to now relatively low in chips.
Yeah, and JC, meanwhile, has gone from 6th in chips all the way up to 3rd.
Just like that, poker tournaments can just get flipped upside down.
Action on Steven Silverman. Both he and Joseph Chong lay down.
And Jason, with 12 big blinds, looks down at Jack-10 of hearts. Doesn't really have many options here.
Looks like Custer's going to make his last stand, moving all in with that suited connector.
Daniel Elahi with ace-6 on the button. I'm not exactly sure what he's thinking about. I don't think this would be a very good call here.
61,500 is the number.
Jason's going to have a lot of hands that dominate him. Okay. And there are 2 players behind Elahi who could put pressure on him if they wake up with a decent hand. So Daniel does decide to call here with ace-6, but in my mind, this is a pretty clear mistake.
Well, we'll see if Daniel gets away with that mistake as he heads to the flop heads up. with the ace. You see from the percentages, he's actually a dog in consideration of all the other cards that have been seen and folded.
He's definitely a dog after this flop.
Yeah, King Jack 10 gives Jason Mercier bottom 2 pair. Well, he does connect with a 6 here on the turn.
Increases his outs from just a queen to now an ace, 6, or queen.
And the river card is a 6, running 6s to make trips for Daniel Alaei. And that's the end of Jason Mercier.
I mean, that sends chills up my spine to see Jason go from first in chips with 9 left to out in 8th place. Just an unbelievable set of hands for Jason. Incredibly unlucky there.
Jason, of course, you're the homegrown hero. Everyone's been saying that they wanted to steer clear of you. Did you feel like you really had a lot of confidence in this event?
You know, I was really excited about making the final table and was hoping to make it into the money and hopefully win the thing.
I know that bad beats are kind of, you know, they're part of the game, but how do you handle situations like that?
I try not to think about it. Yeah, I mean, that was pretty bad. Anytime you lose with aces all in pre-flop is going to be pretty frustrating, but, you know, it doesn't always work out the way that you plan.
Welcome back to sunny South Florida at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, where when you're not playing poker, there is plenty to do. You hit the beach yet, Olivia?
As soon as I bust the tournament, I hit the beach.
You just wear your swimsuit underneath your poker attire, right?
That's right. My swimsuit is my poker attire.
Action folded around to Steven Silverman, who's got pocket 7s.
Pretty easy open here for Steve.
Blinds are at 3 and 6,000 with a 1K ante, so Steve's raise to 12,000 is a min raise. And it's folded around to Daniel Alaei. Daniel's going to defend his big blind for an extra 6,000 with 8-6 suited. And the flop, 10-4-3 with a couple of spades.
Normally this just goes check, bet, fold. Danny really doesn't have any equity.
Daniel has checked it over to Steven. And Steven has bet 18,000.
Pretty comfortable flop for Steven. 2 undercards, just 1 overcard, and it's just a 10. Not the most commonly played card.
Oh, look at this. Daniel Alaei check raising to a total of 46,000.
And you see the unpredictability of Danny. Most players, if they made this play, would have some sort of equity, a flush draw, a straight draw, or something. But Danny, with just 2 weak backdoor draws, decides to go for it and get Steven to fold 2 7s, which is pretty remarkable.
Stone cold bluff from Alaei, the 4-time World Series of Poker bracelet winner. He knows a thing or two about cards. And the key here is that despite the fact that these are some of the best players in the world, they don't all approach the game the same way.
That's definitely true. There's multiple ways to play poker profitably and to be successful.
Pocket 4s this time for Silverman, a bit of a downgrade from the 2 7s.
Still is pretty strong hand on the button. Definitely worth a raise.
And he makes it 12,000 to go again. And Joseph Chong has pocket 3s. And moves it all in.
Yeah, with Joe's stack against a button raise, it's a pretty reasonable play. Gets instantly called by Steve. And Steve's in a great position here to knock out very dangerous competitor in Joe Chong.
Yeah, he's all smiles, got Chong in bad shape until that flop.
Wow.
2 outer for Joseph Chong, who flops bottom set.
Makes it look so easy.
Don't ever run bad. And the turn card is an ace. That changes things.
A little bit. Gives Steve a gut shot. Any 2 would also win besides the 4.
Can't connect with a deuce or a 4, though. King on the river. And Chong is going to double through Steven Silverman as he loses back-to-back pots. And you see Chong moving up the ladder there in chip count.
Very nice double for Joe.
Yeah, he's up to 247K.
A little bit of a cooler there, pair to pair.
Alaei folds to Isaac Haxton. Isaac folds as well. Jeff Gross doesn't like 3-5 suited. Silverman doesn't like 8 deuce suited. And King Jack off for Joseph Chong. First playable holding we've seen, and he's on the button, opening to 12,000. Tran folds a small blind. Matt folds the big.
The Joe Chong show has started. It's begun 2 in a row.
It's initials, JC.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You guys didn't know that, huh? Somebody asked me that, like, once.
Apparently, Ike didn't get enough sleep last night.
I was just kidding. And I said, just call. And then, like, on one of the sites that had my nickname is Just Call.
Come on.
I'm like,
And Joseph Chong is keeping the accelerator depressed here. 10-8 offsuit. He opens again, raising to 12,000.
You're going to see a flop. Heads up.
4-5 suited for Eli in the big blind. He defends and the flop. Jack 9-6. Couple of hearts. Open ender for Joseph Chong.
Not a bad flop for Joe. Again, no equity at all for Danny here. Really not much of anything. And a much more dangerous board, frankly.
Yeah, no hero check raises in Daniel's future.
You never know with Danny, but I expect no, and he does fold pretty quickly, and that makes, what, 3 in a row for Joe?
Yeah.
3 in a row.
I wasn't planning on playing this tournament, but last second I decided to, so I had to find $100,000 to buy in with. So I just kind of walked around hoping one of the guys playing had a rebuy ready that I could just borrow off him.
Hey, Tom.
You don't have to put around here.
100? 100,000.
Yeah, I did that. I asked Matt, he said he can't approve it. You're just filming me walking around begging for money. I have good credit with them. I'm good for it, so I can go around and just ask them to borrow usually.
Jane.
Yeah.
Can you ask him if he can give me $100,000?
Sure.
And to give to Joe. Is this for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, for his buying.
It's for me. Just kidding.
Well, that's buying, and
Yeah.
I'll vouch for
Okay.
it.
Yeah, I can get it from, I'm gonna get it from Phil tonight.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
You just said that on national TV, by the way, Joseph, so be careful.
So now I can play $100,000 super high rollers.
Tom Hall's underwriting department a little more liberal than the average lending institution.
Yeah, you know, to someone who's a little bit less familiar with the poker world, they might think that that situation is incredibly bizarre. But it's actually not that uncommon for people to loan huge sums of money to other players that they know, not even necessarily that well, for them to play big buy-in events or big cash games. And in poker, the thing that really matters is your reputation. Joe Chong, very reputable guy, a known quantity in the poker world, and a number of players feel comfortable loaning him the money to play the event.
Yeah, well, they know that he certainly has a little bit of money after almost $9 million in cashes over the course of his career. I don't think he's blown it all on backpacks and ball caps. Pocket kings now for Chong. And he opens for a raise to 13,000.
After winning 3 hands in a row, getting dealt pocket kings is not a bad follow.
Yeah. People start to get suspicious when you play 4 consecutive pots and
try to win every single hand,
they feel like maybe you're out of line.
People might stop giving you credit. This would be the time for Joe, for someone to not give him credit. Ike here with 10-7 in the big blind defends a little bit wider than some of the other pros. I think he feels extra comfortable playing post-flop, even out of position.
He's not looking good against 2 kings. He has flop 10s, though, on the Jack 10-6 board with a couple of clubs. And he checks it over to Chong, who checks behind.
Very interesting check there by Joe.
Board pairs on the turn. Why would Joe check that flop?
Just for deception, and maybe he thinks that Ike is likely to lead a lot of turns. Ike here with a hand maybe that he feels is not strong enough to lead, but also not weak enough to fold, so he decides instead to check call.
Yeah, he didn't bite on Joe's flop check, checking the turn, and then calling Joe's bet. And now the river improves Ike's hand to 10s and 7s.
Now, Ike still doesn't beat, you know, 3 6s or even a jack or an overpair, but he now does beat hands like ace 10 or king 10, and that might be enough to induce him to call this river bet here by Joe.
Joe bets 33,000.
And Ike does decide to call and pay off Joe. An unorthodox, interesting line by Joe, and ends up getting him paid on the river.
Axton doesn't make too many mistakes or misreads at the poker table, but we saw one of them right there. As Joseph Chong wins his 4th pot in a row.
You run 8 in a row, alpha 8. You gotta go for 4 more. You gotta raise next. You gotta go for a record. The first one to do it in alpha 8.
Alpha 8 is brought to you by ClubWPT.com. Fun, exciting poker you can play for free.
Welcome back to the final table of WPT Alpha 8. Taking a look at the leaderboard, we have a real fight to the finish here in Florida. So let's get to Ali and Olivier up in the ClubWPT.com skybox.
Thanks, Lynn. During the break, Joseph Chong decided to let someone else win a hand of poker. His streak was broken, but he is up to 2nd in chips right now as the action continues at our final table. Button is on Steven Silverman, Chong and J.C. Tran in the blinds. Matt Glantz first to act. He lays down the 9-7 suited, pocket threes for Daniel Alai. And raises to 12,000. Min raise. Haxton mucking queen jack off. A couple of more folds in front of Joseph Chong, who has 2 5s in the small blind and calls the extra 9K. Tran looks at king jack offsuit, and he'll call an extra 6. We will take this flop 3-way. And that flop is ace 8-4, all hearts, 43,000 in the middle. And Chong's going to bet out for 20,000. He doesn't even have a heart here.
This is a very surprising lead from Joe into 2 players on this type of board. He doesn't have a heart or any sort of real hand here. JC calls with the king of hearts here, and Alahi raises. This is a very strong play here. Maybe he picked up on some weakness from both Joe and JC, but Alahi himself doesn't have much of a hand, just a pair of 3s and a low heart. He was the pre-flop raiser, so maybe he's trying to continue a story that he, hit that ace maybe with a big heart, the queen of hearts potentially, since we know JC is the king of hearts.
Well, JC makes the call, and the turn is a 10 of diamonds. JC adds a Broadway draw to his flush draw, checks over to Daniel, and Daniel quickly checks back.
Yeah, this puts a little bit of a hole in Danny's story to check back on that 10 of diamonds turn.
River is a king.
So it's not the heart that JC was looking for, but it does give him a pair of kings and the best hand.
JC checking again, and this time Alai reaching for chips with 177,000 in the middle. He fires 112,000 with nothing but a pair of 3s.
At this point, JC doesn't beat much, and he does decide to let it go. Danny playing pretty unorthodox poker here.
And you saw a quick grin on the face of Daniel Alai, like he knows he got away with one there. Blinds have gone up to 4 and 8,000. Ante steady at 1K. Aren't those the sweetest pots? When you know you have nothing or you're probably beat and you win. The old bluff.
Yeah, those feel the best. A relatively tight fold for Matt Glantz as the chip leader with queen 10 offsuit.
Alai has made it 16,000 to go.
Trying to win 2 pots in a row here, but he's going to have to get through the big blind Steve Silverman's pocket 6s.
He defends for an extra 8,000. And we'll head to the flop heads up. And that flop is 9-7-5. Silverman still with the best hand. He's added a gut shot straight draw and checks it to Daniel.
Seems like a reasonable spot to either check or bet if you're Danny. He does decide to bet it, hoping Steve doesn't have much of a hand and just lets go. Obviously, we know Steve has a pair plus a gut shot, so he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, betting a call of 19,000, and the turn card is a deuce. Silverman's going to like that.
Yeah, pretty blank card here. Doesn't change very much. Danny not picking up any equity. We'll see if he takes another shot. He doesn't. He decides to check it back.
Yep, both players check. And on the river, Silverman improves to a straight.
Yeah, great card for Steve there. Didn't actually need it to win, but now definitely making his hand strong enough to bet the river.
And he does bet that river. 47,000 is the number.
And Danny, without much of a hand, also doesn't have much of a decision there.
Steven Silverman will take the pot down. Silverman, the Rockville, Maryland resident. Part of that crew of players that includes Andrew Lichtenberger and Mike Watson. And look at this, pocket aces for Matt Glantz. We know he's tight, but he's not so tight that he won't play that hand.
Yeah, maybe his patience is going to be rewarded here as he picks up pocket aces, and Ike picks up a hand of his own, ace-10 offsuit. Now, I think normally Ike would at least consider 3-betting, but against a tighter player in Matt Glantz, looks like he decides to just call from the small blind. An awkward, always tough position, the small blind, to know how to play these marginal hands here.
Jeff Gross with 9-6 offsuit. He's been pretty quiet as of late, probably dying to play a pot. And from an odds perspective, what a great opportunity to get in there.
Yeah, 9-6 offsuit, just a little bit too weak.
So it's heads up between Haxton and Glantz, and look at this. It's top set for Glantz, top and bottom for Haxton. This spells trouble.
Yeah, the case ace with a second pair for Ike. This is an absolute disaster. If a king, jack, or queen does not come off Ike is destined to lose a huge pot here.
Isaac checks it over to Glance, and Glance bets 15,000.
Now, having played with Ike a bunch online, I know Ike plays a little bit of a more passive game, especially out of position. He likes to check and call, and he likes to do it with some strong hands as well as some weak hands to keep his hand disguised, and he does elect to just check and call on the flop here.
Blank on the turn.
Yeah, this
Ike
is
checks again.
great card for Matt, and really not a bad card for Ike either. I can't imagine Ike really considering a fold on the turn or on the river unless, like I said, King, Jack, or Queen peel off on the river.
Well, the bet is 39,000 now.
It's actually a decent-sized bet here from Matt Glance, looking to build a big pot, obviously, with such a huge hand.
And Haxton nonchalantly deposits his call into the middle.
Yeah,
He's drawing dead here.
Completely drawing dead, so any money that he adds to this pot is gone. And this 5 doesn't really change much again. I think it's going to be very tough for Ike to get away here. I actually think it might even be a mistake for him to fold. We can see that Matt Glance has an absolute monster and that Ike had no shot the entire hand, but still, Ike with aces and tens here, probably just too strong to fold.
And he does check call that final bet, which was 65,000, and gets a look at top set. He doesn't seem entertained. Big pot heading over to the chip leader.
Yeah, a little bit of a cooler there for Ike.
I always think he never has it. Gets called and has it in nuts.
Yeah, Haxton. That's a look of disgust on his face.
See more Alpha 8 Florida action with some surprising plays in the 4-bet bonanza we saved for A8's Clip of the Week. Just log on to ClubWPT.com for your exclusive look. ClubWPT.com. Fun, exciting poker you can play for free.
Hi, welcome to Council Oak at Seminole Hard Rock. This is our chef's table.
Thanks for having us. Cheers to WPT Alpha 8 and to the Seminole Hard Rock for hosting us. Grave and Knives.
That's so cool.
Look at that.
Do you have WPT Alpha 8?
Do you know how hard this makes it to commit a crime?
Well, now I can frame you, Ollie.
Ooh, look at that.
Wow. That is cool. Very cool. Where'd my napkin go? It's not working. What? It's like an ascot. You want me to do an ascot?
Ask something. I'm good. No, really, I'm good.
No,
please. Oh, no, please, really, I'm good.
Come on.
I'll take the napkin. That's great. Thank you. I'm good.
What do we have here? I want to welcome you to our exclusive wine room.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. I can get used to this. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
Right? Cheers. Cheers. You haven't lived until you've had an ice ball in your beverage. I just want to point that out.
That ice cube was really cool.
But it's not a cube. It's a sphere.
Good call.
I went to geometry class. Meanwhile, back at the action, we see the current chip counts. Matt Glance still your chip leader. Button is on Steven Silverman, and Glance will be first to act here. Pocket nines for him, certainly playable. Open raises to 17,000. Both Alai and Haxton fold over to Jeff Gross, who's on a short stack and happy to take a look at 2 black kings.
Yeah, with 12 big blinds, this is a sight for sore eyes here for Jeff. There's nothing that feels better when you're sitting on 12 big blinds than looking down at 2 black kings.
And of course, he puts the rest of his stack in the middle, 93,000 total.
I can't imagine him not getting called here.
Good luck, Jeff.
And of course, Glance calls, turns over the 2 nines, and gets the bad news that he has got a 2-outer heading to the flop.
Great spot for Jeff.
Sacktown, Jeff. Sacktown.
One thing's for sure is I won't feel safe to the river, even at King High.
You were patient. You deserve to win.
I bet it became King Deuce Deuce. You feel pretty safe. Listen, it flopped 3 tens. You're safe.
That's a good flop.
Here comes the flop. And it's King High. Jeff Gross sitting very pretty. Matt Glance is going to have to hit running diamonds or running nines in order to win this pot. And the 4 on the turn ices it. Glance now drawing dead, and Jeff Gross will double through the chip leader.
With no sweat on the river, that is a nice way to double up for Jeff Gross.
93, yeah. JG is back in it.
I didn't know I was out of it.
Got to look at the prize pool there. Over $2 million was generated from our 18 entrants. First prize will be over $891,000, almost $250,000 to fourth place. Daniel Alai folds an ace. And Isaac Haxton with Queen 9 suited will push in $73,000. This may be a result in part of the blinds having gone to 5 and 10,000, reducing the value of his stack. And now it's on to Jeff Gross.
Yeah, this is actually a pretty tough spot with 2 5s. Looks like Jeff decides to fold.
Wow, breathe now. Like, take a breath.
If I was Jeff, I definitely would have considered pushing in there, but I think it's reasonable to fold as well.
I'm all in.
It looks like Joe with 22 big blinds and King Jack offsuit decided to make a play, put all his chips at risk, got Matt Glantz to fold King Queen, and he's in pretty good shape to knock out Ike here with King Jack to Queen 9 suited.
No, I think it was a fold for me, my position.
Yeah, he is better than a 3-2 favorite until, of course, the all-heart flop comes off.
Pretty good flop.
Ike Haxton has Joseph Chong drawing dead on the flop. That doesn't happen every day.
That's incredible. Ike sitting pretty here with a flop flush. A turn and river are really just formalities at this point.
168,000 in that pot.
I was wondering why
I had
you
2
were
5s.
already, like,
I kept
cutting up
feeling,
them out.
Silverman. I was like, can I do that?
A little bit of wealth redistribution in the last 2 pots. A6 offsuit for Joseph, who is now down to 146,000.
A little bit of luck redistribution, too.
Yeah. Over to Ike. He's on the button with ace-3 off.
And even though Ike just doubled up, he still only has about 15 big blinds. And with an ace on the button, this might be enough for Ike to put his chips at risk again.
All in.
Indeed, he says all in. Now to Jeff Gross. Easy fold with Queen 7 and A6 offsuit for Steven Silverman.
Call.
Yeah, this is pretty borderline, but very reasonable call here.
Nice call.
I had ace-6 also.
Tell me that.
Doesn't make a difference.
I'll take a chop. If we chop this one, I won't complain.
Yeah, Steven's got to be real happy to see Ike has a worse ace than him. It's not too often when you have ace-6 that your opponent is all in with a weaker kicker.
King Jack 5 on the board.
5 would be fine.
Like I said, once you turn a wheel here.
No, I don't want the wheel draw. I do like that.
Oh, look at that turn card. A 3 gives Ike the best hand and has Steve needing a 6 to win the pot. Oh, how about a third 3 for good measure? What a suck out by Isaac Haxton.
And we've now seen Ike double up in 2 consecutive hands. Really nice run of cards there for Ike Haxton.
And that's going to cripple Steven Silverman's stack.
WPT Alpha 8 is sponsored by ClubWPT.com, the site for fun, exciting poker. You can log on now and start playing for free. ClubWPT.com is brought to you by the World Poker Tour.
Our inaugural World Poker Tour Alpha 8 event from the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in South Florida rolls on. We began the action with 18 entrants, and now we are down to just 7 at our final table, each of whom bought in for at least $100,000, save for 2 players who have re-entered, those being both Daniel Alai and Isaac Haxton, who are in for $200,000 apiece. Your current chip leader is Matt Glantz, and currently on the short stack is Joseph Chong with $135,000. The blinds are at 5 and 10K, the antes are at 1K, and the action is on Danny Alai. Alahi looks down at A7, sitting on $227,000 in chips.
Danny sitting on about just under 23 big blinds. Going to open for a min raise here.
And it's 2 9s for Isaac Haxton on the button.
You know, Ike might normally decide to just call with 2 9s here, but I think because Danny has 23 bigs, he's probably going to 3-bet and hope that Danny can go all in so he can get heads up with him.
Well, you are right, my friend. $50,000 is the total amount of the 3-bet. Haxton starting this hand with $300,000 in front of him.
I think Ike will be disappointed, though, because Ace-7 offsuit doesn't strike me as a strong enough hand for Danny to put his tournament life and 23 big blinds at risk.
Both blinds fold, and it's back around to Alai. Folding certainly not an option, and just calling not very attractive. So Alai is going to sail off for the full amount with Ace-7 off.
As it calls.
Yeah, I think this hand is a little too weak to make this play with. Maybe if he had a hand like Ace-10 or Ace-Jack. You know, everybody knows that Ike is an aggressive player, but I think Danny is misplacing some of his perception of Ike's aggression.
Yeah, this seems to have more to do with the situation and the opponent than with the actual holding for Danny Alai. Now Danny's looking for an ace, and he gets one, but unfortunately it comes with a 9 as well, giving Isaac Haxton a set of 9s and putting Danny Alai way behind, just 2% to win this particular pot. He needs to see a 4, ace, or a 7 on the turn, otherwise he'll be drawing dead, and sure enough, a queen on the turn draws the curtain to Danny Alai's day and to $200,000 in investment.
Overall, though, I felt Danny played pretty well, a little bit unpredictable, just didn't get enough good hands when it mattered.
Welcome back to the world's most exclusive poker room, WPT Alpha 8. Tonight's event is coming from the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in South Florida.
Thank you, Lynn. And inside that exclusive poker room, we are down to just 6 players with the loss of Daniel Alai in 7th place. At the top of the leaderboard right now is Matt Glantz with $743,000, followed by Isaac Haxton in 2nd place with $462,000. JC Tran with $378, Jeff Gross $245, and the 2 short stacks at the table belong to Steven Silverman and Joseph Chong, respectively, $158 and $114. A couple of folds in front of Matt Glantz, who from the cutoff, or 1 away from the button, has raised it to $21,000. Blind steady at 5 and 10 with a 1K ante, and Isaac Haxton with Ace-10 offsuit has called. Small blind folds, and now it's to Steven Silverman with Jack-8 suited. Tempting.
Yeah, I think Steven's almost always going to call here from the big blind. I was a little bit surprised to see Ike just call with Ace-10 offsuit. Both him and Matt are relatively deep. I think I would have considered 3-betting there with Ace-10.
From the big blind, 3 players to the flop.
As it stands, 3 players will be taking this flop, and it's Ace-Jack-5 with a couple of clubs. Everyone's got a piece. Silverman with middle pair, Glantz with middle pair, and a better kicker and a flush draw. Meanwhile, best hand belongs to Isaac Haxton with Ace-10. But as you can see by the percentages, Glantz actually a favorite to win the pot right now. He bets $31,000. Haxton calls, Silverman out of the way, and we're down to heads up.
Yeah, pretty standard so far. It'll be interesting to see how Matt decides to play the turn here.
Queen rolls off, and Glantz checks to Isaac. Haxton checks back.
Isaac checks.
Matt's conservative and tight image is definitely giving him a free card there on the turn.
Meaning Haxton more often than not would have fired that turn card against
I think
other
against
opponents.
some other opponents he would have.
And look at this.
Jack.
Gets checked all the way down, and Haxton content to roll over his Ace-10 and give us a look at what's on his mind.
Juicy. Juicy flop.
Could have been a raise and a re-raise. And wow.
Yeah, I think Ike just decided to not go for thin value against a player like Matt, who he didn't think would call particularly light, but might check some kind of tricky, strong hands. But I certainly would have tried to go for value there on the river.
We, of course, always have the benefit of seeing a hole cards. These guys have to play a little bit of guesswork, and against the caliber of opponents that they're faced with here, it's a little bit more difficult than on average. Action on Steven Silverman, who's having separation anxiety with his King-8 offsuit. Finally says goodbye.
Well,
Ace-5 suited for Joseph Chong.
And that might have been the reason that Steven decided not to open Joe. Pretty active player in the short stack.
half the prediction came true. We'll see the other half.
Tell me the first card first.
First card's average.
Okay, so you have like 11 outs.
Glantz playing the squeeze game.
First card was dead average.
Hearts are pretty good, though.
Did you want me to find an ace under the 8? Did you want me to find it?
That time, no, he didn't.
Not
That one, no. I had an ace. A suited ace. Ace 5 suited.
Yeah.
Chong telling the truth, somewhat of a rarity in the poker community, at least at the table when it comes to what hand you had.
Yeah, I think at the higher stakes buy-ins, if players talk about their hands, they actually tend to be pretty honest.
Axton out of the way, and now Jeff Gross, with $239,000 in front of him, takes a peek at Queen 4 suited.
Looks like action was folded to...
You got to believe that Jeff Gross's gum is just all out of flavor at this point. He has been smacking that thing hard since the top of the event. And he is going to make it 20,000, min raise. Pocket deuces for Silverman in the small blind, showing pause.
There's 6 players left out of 21.
I bet you Bill re-enter right now for 220.
Special case.
And he's going to just lay it down. Back to Joseph Chong. Joseph only with $134,000 to start the hand. He is going to defend for the extra $10,000, and we go to the flop heads up. And that flop, 5, 6, 9 with a couple of clubs. Bottom 2 pair for Joseph Chong. Flush draw for Jeff Gross, and Chong is going to lead right into the pre-flop raiser for $25,000.
All in. Call.
And Jeff Gross doesn't take long to move all in. Snap call from Joseph Chong.
Joe called.
Next. I'm all in.
I just wish I just shipped it. I could have avoided the controversy.
Well, I wish I shipped it.
5 of clubs, 9 of hearts, 6 of clubs.
But I had the first opportunity.
He is all in.
Here comes the turn. 10 of clubs. Jeff Gross gets there.
Wow.
And now Joseph Chong is left in need of a 5 or a 6 to fill up, make the best hand, and stay alive. Here comes the river. It's the 3 of spades. And Joseph Chong, who at one point had won 4 straight pots and really run it up and looked to be controlling the table, is busted.
Unbelievable. We saw something similar with Jason Mercier earlier, where Jason had been crushing and then got a little bit unlucky in a couple hands, and he himself also busted.
And that is the way high-stakes live tournament poker can go from time to time. Most importantly now, with the loss of Joseph Chong, we're down to 5 players, and you know what that means.
Yeah, you can expect the tension to really rise here as the 5th finisher gets $0, and we're really looking at a huge bubble here.
Well, A8 Florida has seen its lion's share of losers. The good news is we are close to crowning a champion. So, who has the moves that will make them the alpha player? Join us next time here in South Florida when we will play down till we have a winner. For Ali Najad and Olivier Bousquet, I'm Lynn Gilmartin. Good night.